There you go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy Hart. I am with Friendship Force of Sacramento, and this is our Let's Paint watercolor virtual event that's live. And if you're watching the recording, of course, it's recorded. And we are going to paint some Christmas cards today. So if you are talking, if you wouldn't mind, please muting unless you have a question. I am going to go ahead and spotlight my camera so you can see what I'm doing after I go, there it is, after I go over the supply list. So everyone should see like my hands now, right? Oh,
Yep.
well, okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do, and you can feel free to mute yourself so we don't have background noises. I will take cues from you to know when we can go on. When I see people looking up, that will tell me, okay, you're ready for the next step. These are the 3 cards we're going to paint today. Let's go over your supply list real quick. So you need your watercolors and a brush, water. Okay, someone, I'm hearing background noise. A man is talking. So let's mute, please, because it makes it very hard for people to hear. Okay, so watercolor brush, water, your cardstock. You're going to want some Q-tips and your markers. You may or may not use a stamp pad. I have some things stamped. You want a Sharpie permanent marker, fine tip. Now, I didn't send this out in the original, but I told you later, you need something small, like this is a lid from Vitamins, because that's what we're going to use to trace for one of our cards. And then a napkin or a paper towel just to dab in case you have too much water or too much paint. And I wanted to mention, for those of you who really enjoy doing watercolors, you might want to consider getting watercolor pencils. These are nice because, of course, it's a very fine tip. So you can do much more detailed work. You just draw it on and then you activate the color with water. It's also really nice when you are drawing to draw in watercolor pencil, because then when you paint over the top, it actually is going to blend into your painting. Okay, so let's start. Get one of your cards and we are going to draw this one. Now, what I'm going to try to do is have the finished painting next to me and the drawing in front. Okay, so because you can't see when I draw in pencil, I'm going to draw in pen. Do not draw your picture in pen. Please draw lightly in pencil. You're going to paint over it. I am only doing this so you can see it. So we're going to start up at the top and we're just going back and forth, loop-de-loop. Here, left, right, left, and you're getting bigger as you're going down. Lightly in pencil, and then a bottom. And you can see this one looks different. The one on my right looks different than the one on my left. And when you've finished drawing it, all we're doing is the tree right now. We'll put the ornaments on without drawing them. Look up so I have an idea that folks are ready to draw the next one. Okay, so that's our tree drawing. We will come back to that. Let's draw our lights. Again, I'm drawing in pen so you can see it. So the first thing you want to do is draw a string, and it's just kind of from one end of your paper over, and then I just go back up to the other side. So you're just doing kind of a little, not quite a half circle across your page. And you could see I messed up there, but that's okay. This is just a paper. And then lightly in pencil, you're going to do 3 bulbs. And if you can see, I didn't put them, oh, you can't see the light. Okay, let me get this right. There we go. I did not put them right on the line. I left a little space because you know how it has that little, whatever that's called, that little electrical connection. So you're going to do 3, not exactly ovals, but sort of ovals, a little distance from that line. And if you have something like this middle one that I have in pencil, it's not a big deal because it doesn't have the paint on it. You can paint outside your lines. Your pencil drawing is a guide. That's all it is. And once you have your 3 bulbs, go ahead and just kind of sketch in where you're going to have your little connector pieces. Those are super small.
It can be a pencil.
Okay, and when you're done, look up so I know we can go to the next one.
Oh.
Okay, so let's get our next. Now this is the one we're going to trace. So you'll want to get your lid or whatever circular thing you're using. And I actually have already penciled mine in. So I'm going to do my front one first. So trace it, your front ornament. Of course, mine's bumpy because I'm not tracing, but this is just to show you. Things tend to look better if they're just slightly off center, so you don't want to line everything up perfect, or like when you do the third ornament, make it off center from the other one. But you want to, we're going to go ahead and put the second one a little bit behind the first one. So we're going to just overlap your lid a bit like that, whatever degree. I mean, you could overlap it a whole lot, but the point is you want it behind your front ornament. So go ahead and trace that second ornament in. Very light pencil. And then your third ornament, I just put a real smidgen of it behind. Because I just kind of like the look. It helps give it a little depth if it's behind. And then right along the top, we're going to make a very small pencil mark for these ornament connector pieces. See that? It's almost like an upside down, not exactly a square, just a little bump really. So up, over, and down. Right in the middle. Up, over, and down. And then that one's drawn, and I will put that away. Whoa, sorry. And we're actually, because this one is the most complex, we're going to start painting this one first because we will need this one to dry because they're touching. Okay, so if you're waiting, go ahead and activate your colors. By activate, I mean put some water in your color, in your watercolor paints. Just however you do it. If you have a little spray thing, awesome. If you don't have a spray thing, you can just dabble it. That's what I'm doing right now with my brush, just dabbling a little water. Okay, now I'm actually painting on watercolor paper just because I had some scrap this size. And I'll tell you, it does make a difference, folks. It really does. It is much nicer to work with. But you can do it on cardstock. I do it on cardstock all the time. So the difference is cardstock, you don't want it really, really wet. You want it where it is just, you know, you're gonna pretty much do just your color on your paper. So let's go ahead and pick some red. And we're gonna do that front one. Now, if you notice, and this is really easy to forget, I've got a reflection in there. And I have them on all of the 3 ornaments. It's the same side because the light source would be the same for all 3. All I did is I left that unpainted. So leave a strip unpainted. So let's see, I'm just taking my red and I honestly, I forget that all the time. So I'm gonna do my line first, my unpainted line, so I don't forget it. And then I'm gonna paint the rest of my circle. Just gonna follow the line, the circle line around. And remember, folks, it's easier to turn your paper so it is comfortable to paint as opposed to trying to do gymnastics and get around your paper. Just turn that paper so it's easier. Okay, so I've left my little white spot. I feel like it's a bit large, so I'm going to make it just a tiny bit smaller. And I'm adding a little color because I felt like it was light, so I'm going back over and making it just a little deeper. Okay, then I'm going to go into my same red paint, and because my reflection is up here on my top right, that means my bottom left is going to be a little bit more in shadow. So I'm just going to add a little bit more red down here and see what I think. So all we're trying to do is give it a little bit of dimension. Okay, so when you've finished your red, I want you to look up so I know you're done.
Jerry.
Okay, so let's move that to the side because we want that to dry. I mean, if it's still wet, we can always use the hair dryer to blow it, but
Jerry.
we've got others to work
Close
on. Okay,
blinds.
so now we're going to go back to our lights.
The 2 center ones.
With the string. So let's see, this is red, green, and blue. So we know we have red already. So let's go into our red. And this we can paint pretty much all. Again, I did lights. Now, I mean, I did a reflection. This time I did it on a slightly different side, and actually blue's right in the middle. It looks kind of stupid, but so if you'd like, go ahead and keep a reflection line in your light. Like I did before, I am going to draw that reflection line first so I don't forget.
Hey, if you're making yourself a sandwich, I need one too.
Okay.
Whoever's talking about the sandwich, could you please mute yourself? Because we hear your conversation. Thank you.
Jerry, how do I mute?
Bottom left corner. You might have to move your mouse to see it. I can also mute for you. Who is that?
So mute now.
Okay. Nope, I can still hear someone's background noise. Okay. I think we got it. Good deal. And let's go ahead and do our middle green one. Now, I did a light green here. Do whatever. Oh, that's right. You guys, if some of you have just, you know, you'll have one green, and that's fine. Go ahead and use your green. And remember, if you're going to do the reflection, do it in approximately a similar spot. Okay, if you have a question, just feel free to unmute yourself because I'm not going to be looking at chat. But we're finishing up our green bulb. Okay, one thing I wanted to show you is I actually was interrupted a little bit with that last bulb that I made. So I kind of have uneven lines. I mean, it's darker in some spots, lighter in others. So the way I want to blend that is I'm just taking my brush. It's clean, it just has a little water, and that reactivates your paint on your paper. And I can move the paint so it's not quite so splotchy. I mean, if you want splotchy, that's no worries, but I didn't, so I'm just kind of moving it around. Now it's a little more even. Okay, and once you've done your green, the next color that was on the sample here is blue. So feel free to do your blue bulb again using the reflection just by leaving a line or space between the paint. All right. And looking up when you're done so I know we can go on. I want you to say this to yourself. I am an artist. We are all artists. We stop believing that at about second or third grade. You believe it up until that point. And then for whatever reason, feedback or just we compare ourselves to others' work, we stop believing that we are artists. when in fact, we are all artists and all art is awesome. And you are an artist today and you are making 3 pieces of art. How are we doing, folks? Are you getting to a point where we can go back to our ornament one? Because we want to do the second layer there. So go ahead and pull out your ornament. Now this is being recorded and it'll be posted on the both the Friendship Force of Sacramento, our website for our members, and it'll also be posted on the FFI virtual experience page. So if I go too fast, you can always go back and replay it and go at your own speed. So not to worry if you don't finish. Let's go ahead and do some purple. We're going to do the ornament on the left. Now, if your palette, I think even the inexpensive palette has purple. If it doesn't have purple, you're just going to mix red and blue. That makes purple. So let's go ahead and paint that purple one. Now here's something that might be helpful. You want to just, if you can, leave a tiny space because you don't want to go into the red. You'd rather have a little bit of space. And again, if you want to have that reflection, I'm going to paint it first so I don't forget. There we go. So when you're coming down to the red, be very careful. And it's actually okay if you leave just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of white space in between the two. Oh, darn, I just covered up my reflection. So I did one coat and it was pretty light. So I went back in and got more pigment on my brush to do another coat. Okay, then let me show you one thing I did that is different. This is just a technique. I went back into my paints and I got more of my pigment, which means not more water, just the paint. I'm going back in along this line where the red is, and I actually just, so this brush has more purple paint, same color, and I'm just tapping it because it's still wet. And I'm tapping it along that line to add additional paint because I actually want it to look a little darker as though it were shadowed. And because it's wet, watercolor kind of oozes out. So that's kind of the effect I was going for. You don't have to do that, but I did want to show you that as a technique. So that's a shadowing technique. And also you would just use that it's wet into wet. That's what it's called, where you add color into something that has water on your painting. Now, the more coats you do, you can see this one on my left is much darker than the one on my right. So I must have done several coats. I mean, I'm okay actually with it lighter. It's just whatever look you're interested in having. And because our red is dry on this paper, we're going to go ahead, for those of you who are finished, we're going to do the green one next. So the top right one, again, if you want the reflection, do that first. You can see I took mine off. I'm actually going to try to bring back a reflection. Let me show you how you do that. This is kind of like erasing. Let's see if it works. Okay, I've got just the tiniest white line there compared to that one. Again, I have a clean brush and I'm just going to go on top of the paint with a clean brush, not too much water. And I'm lifting the paint. And if you need to, you can use your paper towel. And now you see I have a, whoops, no, you don't. Okay, now you see I have a stronger line, a stronger reflection line. So I can go back later and make that the shape I want, but that's a way to erase with watercolors or lift paint with watercolors. So good, that was a happy mistake, happy accident, I think is what Bob Ross, who paints in oils, used to call it. So let's paint our green. Ooh, that's super dark. I hope you're having fun looking at your beautiful, beautiful cards. When we finish this third ornament, we are almost done with this one. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with my purple one. I'm going to come down next to my red and I'm just going to add some additional green to make that a little bit darker. So I'm going to go back into my paint and just dot it along that line. And because the red is dry, it will not go into my red ornament. It'll just stay on my green side, but slowly kind of dissipate. So when you've painted your, oh, that isn't quite the same angle, is it? Let's cover a bit of that up. That's a little better. And when you're done, look up so I know we're going to do our tree next because we have green on our brush and that's what we use for our Christmas tree. And it's 11:30 and we've done a great job so far. I think we're more than halfway, so we're doing great. Okay, I see several of you looking up, so let's put this aside and let the green and the purple completely dry. And we're going to do our tree next. So you've got your green paint. This one is super easy. You're just going to follow your pencil. So get some paint loaded on your brush. Actually, oh yeah, I'll do this one. This, honestly, this is my least favorite one, but that's why mine's not on cardstock. This is just on paper. But I have a paintbrush that I think is about the same size as what would come in a student watercolor. So we're just going to start and follow that pencil around. Oops. And a little wobbly. Oops. The more pressure you put on your brush, the bigger your line. Mm. I'm just trying to neaten up some of my curves. I don't have any paint on my brush. It's just a little water to try to correct some of the things that I'm not happy with. Again, it's all about just having fun and connecting and being creative. And if you are the next Rembrandt, good for you. Could you send me a painting? Again, looking up when you've finished with your green tree. And we're not going to touch the tree with the ornaments. If you can see, I actually have the color slightly off of the tree. So we can go ahead and do that now. And you could do whatever you want. You could put multicolors. I just did red. And then I came back in with a marker and did these dots around the corner. Make sure you can see that. So this I did with watercolor, and then this I just did with marker as an accent. So let's go ahead and get some red and put in, or whatever color you want, and put in a few little ball ornaments. And again, I'm not touching it because if I touched it and it's wet, the colors will bleed. Some I'm putting on top of the loops, but most I'm putting under the loops. This tree is one I'll probably teach. I have two adopted little granddaughters that I bring over, and I'll probably do this one with the 8-year-old because it's, I mean, she could do any of these, but that one's just really, really simple. So while you're finishing, I forgot my markers. So if you didn't have markers, because I didn't talk about the red markers in the beginning, let me just show you how I finished that. So I always start by doing a larger dot right in a corner. And then I just go up the side and along the bottom with 2 smaller dots. So that gives it just a little more of a finished edge. And my markers are super inexpensive Crayola markers, but they do great dots. So you don't need expensive markers to do this. And of course you could do it with paint. A little harder, you'd need a small brush because you'd just put the tip in.
Can I ask a question?
You bet.
You know, when you're folding this cardstock, is there a way to do it so that it looks okay on the crease?
So that all depends on your cardstock, how heavy it is. I've been making cards, doing stamping for probably 15 years. So I try to line it up as much as possible. And then I take either my thumb or, you know, something that won't leave a mark, but I crease where I have folded. I don't have anything here. I mean, but I think you know what I'm saying. So I'd fold it over, I try to line it up as much as possible. And then I'm going to do that. When I don't fold something perfectly, I have a paper cutter. And so then actually I did that this morning because I didn't like how I folded something, but I had already creased it. So I went and just did the tiny little bit off of my edges.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's something I did earlier. Okay, so you are finished then with your tree. So let's go back to our, let's go back to our Christmas lights. And I think I put those dots in with markers. Yeah, they look like they're markers. So I think I did everything except the little in between the line. I think I did that with watercolor. So I'm hoping that you have a brown. If not, you can mix brown by adding 2 colors that are opposite. So like I think green and red make brown if you don't have a brown in your palette. And I'm just going to take a little bit of brown and go right on the top of my lights. So I have a little space there, showing a connector piece. Just a little bit. Not too much water, not too big of a space. And I'm looking at my ornaments, and I did those in marker, in black marker, so we won't have to paint that in. So actually, yeah, I think we can let that one dry and come back and do the marker points in a second. Let's finish up with the paint on your ornaments. And this is where you're going to use your Q-tips. This is another technique. I think it actually, honestly, I think it works better with when you're using acrylics, but it certainly works with watercolor. Now you don't want the real shaggy Q-tips. Okay, you want something with a little bit of a tight tip, I guess. If yours isn't tight, just roll it between your fingers because the shaggier just kind of leaves a bigger edge. And then all I did here was I would use one color, of course, per side. So I have several Q-tips here. So you just dip it into your color. Let's see, I did purple, red, and yellow. You can do whatever you like. But my yellow wasn't activated, so let me activate it. Okay, and I think I'll do I'll do the same green. Okay, so you just put your Q-tip in your watercolor. Can you see that? There we go. So it's watercolor, and this is why I keep a piece of scratch paper by me, is I want to try it first. And I go, okay, that works. It's a dot. I just want to see sometimes how big it is. That's kind of a big dot, but I put a lot of pressure on it. So I'm going to do it a little lighter, and then there'll be smaller dots. And these are all just random around your ornaments. That's a good amount, however many I have there. Okay, I'm going to do, oh yeah, I have 4 colors. Okay, I'm going to do my red next. Yeah. Again, I'm checking. Yep, that's red. And I think I'll put a few purple on there. And even if I do a greeting, I usually put it on a separate piece of cardstock. So I'll just go over my dots. That's fine. My final color I'm going to put some dots on will be yellow, and it's much lighter, but that's okay. I'm actually going over some of my yellow dots a second time just to kind of deepen the color a little bit. And when you've done all the sparkles you want or the dots that you want, I did kind of more this time than I did this last time. I like this one better. I like my first one, but that's all right. And we're going to move that aside after you've finished your dots, and we're going to let those dots dry. And let's do our lights. And this one I used markers. So I think I'm going to make my wire black. Even though I didn't make it black there. So now I'm just going to follow my pencil. And this card's almost done. So you could either do dots like you just did with the Q-tips. I wanted slightly smaller dots, so I'm going to do it with markers, just basically pressing in. And I may just do the color that is around the, that actually might be nice. Let me see if I like that. Might just do some dots around. So like around my red one, I'm doing red marker. Yeah, I think I'll do that. That means I need a couple more markers. So I did some red dots around my red light. Okay, that's perfect. Now I'm adding some green around my green. Light. And blue. Okay. So I switched it up, but you do it however you like. And on this one, I didn't use a stamp on the model. I wrote shine. I also have this particular stamp that says Christmas greetings. I might put that on there, or you can do Merry Christmas or Bright Christmas or anything that you like. But that is all of the painting and the and except for the words up on the top, that would be all of the markers for this particular card. So we should be very close to being done with the Christmas lights. And your tree's done. I'm going to wait a minute for folks to catch up, and then we're going to go back to our ornaments. And mine is not quite dry, so I'm going to dry it while you guys are finishing up. Or if you're ready to, go ahead and make sure yours is dry. I just use a hairdryer thing. While you're working, I just want to share with you, one of the things I do, because watercolor paper is much more expensive than cardstock, I sometimes will just cut a piece of cardstock the size of my card. So if I'm doing an 8.5 by 11 cardstock, I would cut that in half and then fold it. That would be the size of my card. And I would cut my watercolor paper to fit on top. And then I paint on watercolor and I end up gluing. Like I'll show you one that I did. This is actually a smaller one. Okay, that light, there we go. Let's try that. Okay, so this is some pine cones in pine leaves. That's on watercolor paper, but then you can even see the edge. I cut it a little smaller and you can't see it in this light, but I went around it with green pencil, so there actually is a border there. So that way I'm making more cards and not using up my watercolor paper, because I paint a lot and I don't like to use up twice as much as I need. So that's just something that I do that works for me. How we doing? We ready to finish up our ornament card? I'm making mine. You're going to need your black marker for this, because we're going to do the ornament tops and the strings. So go ahead and get your permanent marker. And we're just going to follow the pencil for the little cap that's on the top. And I see that one of my caps is going to be right in the middle of that dark spot, so I'm hoping it's okay. Yeah, I need to make sure it's dry. Make sure yours is dry. So let's just follow our pencil, making those little ornament caps. And because I didn't want it white, these are actually bigger caps than the first one. I actually just did kind of a zigzag. I don't think you can see it in the sample. I just went with my pen and I didn't color it completely, but it kind of just did a zigzag. Maybe you can see that one. Let's see. Ah, there we go. See how I just slightly colored in that cap? Because I didn't want it all white. So I'm just going to slightly color mine in. I am probably going to attach this Christmas stamp to this one, maybe a little over here, so it doesn't cover up quite everything. Now we're going to do our lines for the how the ornaments are hanging. So you can use a ruler if you like. If you're super meticulous, no worries, do it. I'm just going to freehand it because they're just a little line. And then if I mess it up, I'll be sad. And you know what? If they curve, it's okay. I just decided because that one curved. There we go. So you could write a greeting on this. If you have stamps, you could stamp a greeting. Yeah, I think I'm going to stamp on this one.
You know, when I started this, I thought, ooh, yuck, this doesn't look good. But as you get through it, it looks so much better.
Right, exactly.
I might actually give this to somebody.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. While you're finishing up, I'm just going to share. I did a really simple one this morning because I saw this on Pinterest and I thought, oh, this is cute too. This one, again, took me 5 minutes. So it is, I first on this one, yeah, you can see that. This I just did on paper to practice. I penciled in the word love going off the page on both sides, penciled that in, and then I went over it with marker. And then just like we did on the light one, only much smaller, I put dots of color around and then connected it with just marker because it was so small. But I thought that was so cute. It just says love and then bright Christmas I wrote in. Here is one. This is about as easy as they get. So it's a triangle. Okay, let's see if I can, no, you can't really. It's a triangle of color, and I penciled in the shape of the tree. And then after it dried, I just went over with some color. I tried some of my glitter. I have some glitter watercolors. Not real happy with the effect that made, but anyway, I just wanted to show you another super, super simple one. I think that may or may not have been in the links that I sent you with one of the artists that I follow. This is another one. This is not a watercolor, it's acrylic, but it's, oh my gosh, it's so easy. So I painted my paper black because I didn't have any black paper. So I just painted it black. And then using the Q-tips, I went in and did the white. So I did some, you can see, are bigger. So that had more pressure. Oh, sorry, I did the snow first. So you do your background first. So I painted the black, and then I painted my snow with just white. Super easy. Curve. This is again with acrylics, not watercolor. Then I went in, and with my Q-tips, I did the dots for the, you know, inside my tree. And then I also did some glitter dots and small white dots. And then I ended up doing glitter on the snow. Again, not super happy with that glitter paint that I'm using, but I'm trying it. So that is some very, very easy Christmas cards. I want to take the spotlight off, and before you go, I want everyone to show me their amazing artwork, but hang on, I got to get the spotlight out of there. Okay, so if you look, put it in gallery view, you'll see lots and lots of people. There we go. Show me your favorite one that you did today. I'm curious which one. Oh, and if you like all three of them, be proud. Put those three up. All right, let's see if I'm going to take a picture. I'm going to post this on our Facebook page because I just love you. I love you, artists. Say, I am an artist.
I am an artist.
I did not hear you. That was terrible. Let's do it again. I am an artist.
I am an artist.
I'm an artist.
Yes, you are. Okay, anybody have any questions? I'm happy. Oh, it's like right on the money, 12 o'clock. I'm happy
Are you going to be doing more?
I plan to do, the short answer is yes, exactly how I'm going to do it. I have yet to determine because I find I'm duplicating some of my Zooms. And so I may go through our lifelong learning program, but open it up to Friendship Force. So we'll see. But
oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, but I'm planning on doing a Valentine's one and then a birthday card. And because I also do cooking stuff, this one's really more complicated, but I'm planning, because they are so fun and look so fabulous, I'm planning on showing how to make molded truffles, and they are beautiful.
Kathy?
Yes.
I just wanted to share about cardstock.
Yes.
At Crocker Art Museum gift shop, ready-made postcard cardstock, 15 for $8.95, less a discount if you join the Crocker, and here's my plug for the Crocker. And they're just handy. And that's what I used this morning to make my.
Great. Wonderful. Wonderful. Yes. Yeah. And that's great that Crocker has them. You can also, most craft stores will sell a set. I make my own, but it's because I have tons of envelopes. So yes, Sandy.
Kathy, what would be the effect of that black and white Christmas tree with snow if you used watercolors?
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's see. I haven't tried it. You couldn't use I'm looking at it. You couldn't use white watercolor for the dots because your black's going to overpower it. But you could do a couple of things. You could either just use the white acrylic on top of the watercolor background, and you'd leave the bottom unpainted, Sandy. That's when you're doing white. I mean, there is white. What I would do is just do a hint, tiniest hint of maybe a blue, so it looks like there's something in there, maybe just in a couple places. But you would probably need to use either a white acrylic pen, which I use those for highlights, or acrylics to make the actual tree itself. But I thought that one turned out really cute, and it's a super simple one. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Oh,
Sandra.
What can you suggest about brushes? I had two brushes, one that came with my paint set. In the middle of it, a long bristle came out. Then I got another one that came out. Then I got a pointed one. So what is the best that you would suggest as far as the flat, pointed, the number on it? One of them has a number 2 on it. The others are.
There are brushes out there. It's pretty much however much you want to spend. The inexpensive brushes are going to shed. That's what it's called when the bristles come out. I started with very inexpensive brushes. Then I got a set at Michael's when it was like, 50% off or something. And it was just the basic round tips, some finer points. I kind of broadened it. That worked out well for probably, 6 months or a year. I haven't been watercolor painting that long. But for Christmas, I asked my son to buy some nicer brushes. So I'm constantly upgrading, but I'm painting a lot. And I don't go by brands. I go on Amazon and I look at their reviews. And I try not to spend, you can spend a lot on one brush. By a lot, I mean, you can spend $50 on one brush. Well, I'm not going to. Here's a tip though. I also paint with acrylics. And I didn't know until I watched this on one of my artists, you don't use the same brushes. They say you can use it for watercolor or acrylic. That's the kind of brushes I buy. You're not supposed to mix them. So you're supposed to, now I keep my acrylics separate because they really aren't going to do the job when you're trying to do watercolor.
So you could use either brush for either medium, but you should, if you used it for watercolors, stick it with the watercolor ones.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So I'll tell you, I use these two brushes a lot. They are, okay, let's see. So they're one is a little bit bigger. Where's my camera on this? There we go.
You got it.
One's a little bit bigger and one has a very fine tip. So the fine tip I can use for a little more detail, getting in really close, and the other one's bigger. But even for watercolor, I'll use, if you're doing a lot of a background, I'll use a big brush like this to, paint if I'm doing a bigger piece, not on cards, but on a bigger piece. Yeah.
Kathy,
Yes, ma'am.
would you show us again the one that you showed that's the love?
Yes.
What the detail you did?
Yes. So the word love is in pen. Okay, a cursive. Now, kids couldn't do this. They don't know how to do cursive. So love is in cursive, and then just periodically throughout, I'm sticking little dots we're using the same techniques, only much, much smaller. Okay, and just connecting them to the love with pen, because I didn't try to do a little line because it's very small.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Well, it's been so fun. As always, I have a great time with everybody. Thank you, especially from the UK and Canada. Woohoo! But I love all of my participants. So
Me too.
everyone.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.